Let's overanalyze Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is Drinking by My Shelf, but once again, I'm filming this with a hangover, so I'm drinking the soft drink. I know, I'm disappointed in myself too. In this video, I'm going to talk about BookTube's favourite author of the moment, Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I've got her entire back catalogue right here. So Taylor Jenkins Reid became quite so famous with her last two books, the most recent books, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. These are the books that everyone has been talking about, including me. I am on that hype train with everybody else. I'm so sorry, can't stop talking about them because they really are that good. But these were not actually the first Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I read. I had read one before, which was Maybe in Another Life. I read this one years ago. When it first came out, which was 2015, I read this one when I was writing for Bustle, and I had really loved that one too. So that made me think, if these are two of my favourite books ever, these are two massive 5-star reads, and this was a 4-star read that I really enjoyed, maybe I should read Taylor Jenkins Reid's entire, that sentence was hard to say, Taylor Jenkins Reid's entire back catalogue. Got there in the end, and see if she just really is one of my favourite authors. And now that I have done that, I've read all 6 novels plus her short story, I have findings to bring to you. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to talk about her books in order from when they were published. And I wasn't sure before I read them whether I wanted to talk about them in chronological order or in rankings order, but worked out pretty perfectly because here's the thing about Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I can divide them perfectly into 3 phases. Oh my god, they're even colour coordinated, I didn't even realise. Phase 1, the pink books. These are my 3-star reads. Then she moves on to phase 2, the blue books. And these are my 4-star reads. And finally, phase 3, the historical fiction. And these are my 5-star books, favourite books of the year, respectively in the years they came out. There's also the short story, I will slot that in as we go. I had made all these notes and written out that I divided them into these different phases, and I hadn't even registered that they are colour coordinated. That is so perfect. It makes sense as well, because as well as the phases getting, in my opinion, better and better as they go along, they also do have different themes. Each set of 2 is they're like a little duo. They share the same theme, and then she moves on to the next phase with a new theme. So let's start with phase 1, shall we? So, phase 1, the pink books. These are wistful romances where the power of love is the saving grace of the story. So that's why these 2 were 3-star reads for me. I'm not a big romance reader. I didn't find the love stories in these books as compelling as they get later. These are all romances. I mean, Taylor Jenkins Reid writes about love in all its different forms. So that wouldn't usually be my genre, and yet I still loved so many of these books so much. Really great sign. But these ones were the more kind of straightforward romancy books, I guess, which is why they were only 3-star books. But I still really, really enjoyed them. I mean, I was debating whether or not they would be a 3 because I was having so much fun while reading them. Book number 1, and I hope I've got these in the right order, but I think I have. Forever Interrupted, if I'm not mistaken, was Taylor Jenkins Reid's debut novel. And this is about a couple called Elsie and Ben who fall in love. They have this whirlwind romance, they get married, and then Ben dies. And at this point, Elsie hasn't even met his family yet. There's basically no record. She hasn't got the marriage certificate yet. So there's kind of no record of their relationship. So when she goes to the hospital to identify Ben's body, she meets his mother there for the first time. And the mother didn't even know they were married, doesn't know Elsie exists, and doesn't want to accept her. So, having said that the power of love and romance is the centre of the story, actually, this story is more about Elsie and Ben's mother. It's about their relationship more so than it is Elsie and Ben's. And I really enjoyed reading about that and reading about how these 2 women forge this friendship and help each other grieve. All of that was really beautifully explored. But also, weaved throughout the book is the love story between Elsie and Ben. And that particular love story just didn't really convince me. It was quite that kind of overblown love, with sort of them becoming hysterical at the idea of not being together. That kind of really over the top, really live or die romance just isn't my favourite thing to read about. And then that brings us on to book number 2, After I Do. Now this one, it's actually the most recent one that I read. I had high hopes about it from the premise. So this is about a couple called Lauren and Ryan, and they have been together for a long time when they get married. So the first few pages is just kind of showing us snapshots of their relationship from when they meet at university all the way up until they get married, and then a few years into their marriage. And then when they've been married for about 7 years, their relationship has got very toxic and they are arguing all the time and they basically just can't stand each other. And so they decide to split up. But here's the thing, they don't want to get divorced. They just decide to take a year apart and have absolutely no contact with each other and see if by giving each other that space and that time apart, they can then come back together at the end of the year and learn how to fall back in love with each other. And I don't want to give spoilers. Again, my favourite parts of reading this book, and I did actually enjoy this one a lot more than Forever Interrupted, was reading about, it's all from Lauren's point of view. So Lauren's time during her year, the friendship that she makes, she strikes up this kind of friends with benefits relationship with this guy. And even more than that, her family, her relationship with her mother, her sister, her brother, her grandmother, who's this sort of comic presence in the book. Those were all the bits that I liked best. And actually, every time the story kind of went back to reminding me that it's actually about her relationship with her husband and these letters that she writes him about their year apart, I was less interested in that. So those are the pink books, all about the power of love. For me, these are 3-star reads, but I still really enjoyed them. Absolutely take them on holiday, have a great time. But now we move on to phase 2, the blue books. Now these ones are way more up my alley because these 2 books are both very cynical about the idea of having a one true love. This one is even called One True Loves, plural. So, we get the order the right way around. I think this one is the next book that she wrote, maybe Another Life. So this is the first one that I read. As I said, I reviewed it for Bustle, and I really enjoyed it. I was really pleasantly surprised when I read it back in 2015.
Hello.
Hi, sweetie. The internet says hi. So this is a kind of sliding doors, parallel universe story. I love those. In a recent video I talked about Gillian McAllister, a very different type of one. She has a thriller that's about these 2 parallel ways that life could go, and that was like super gripping and intense. This one is more funny and lighthearted, and basically it's about Hannah one night bumping into her high school boyfriend, and he asks her out, or he offers her a lift home. And in one universe, she says yes, and she goes with him and sees how their relationship may strike back up, and in the other, she says no and leaves with her friend Gabby. And in that one, she ends up meeting somebody totally different. And what was really fun about this one, that just kept making me smile because it was so tongue-in-cheek, is that in each universe, she genuinely believes that she has found a soulmate. So there is nobody else out there who could be more better suited for her than the person that she's with. And it never explicitly does anything for her to realise that that's wrong. But for the reader, it's great because we're seeing her have these 2 thoughts in these parallel universes with different men. So this is where she's coming into the era for me. It's all about being cynical and laughing at the idea that there could ever be just like one person for you, but in a really nice way, because it doesn't matter that she could have fallen in love with a different person in another life. That's not important. What matters is that in the life that she has, she's so happy and believes that it's so perfect for her. So it's simultaneously this kind of cynical, like, making fun of it, but also really embracing it from Hannah's point of view. So that was really great. I really enjoyed this one. And at this point, by the way, I realised the other day, after I wrote an article about this one for Bustle, Taylor Jenkins Reid ended up following me on Twitter. And we used to chat. I remember, like, we would tweet each other about stuff. But now I have a new Twitter account, and she doesn't follow me on that one. I'm never going to be able to get her attention because now she's super famous. So, Taylor Jenkins Reid, if you ever see this, we used to be pals. And then the other one from the blue phase is One True Loves. Now this one is great. I picked this up when I read the synopsis because I have just been watching Jane the Virgin. And in the current season, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen like up until the current season, Michael, as in Jane's dead husband, has come back. And it turns out that he wasn't really dead. And I've been living for that storyline. I mean, it's so emotional and like, oh my goodness, I have so many Jane the Virgin thoughts that we won't talk about right now. But when I saw that this book had the same storyline, could not resist. So this one is about a girl called Emma, my name, and she marries her high school sweetheart, Jessie. They bring out such a wonderful side of each other. You know, this is the kind of love story that I really like reading about because it felt so real. And they've only been married for a year, just coming up a year, when Jessie is on a work trip and his helicopter goes down and he is missing, presumed dead. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. They've been together for so long. We see Emma mourn. We see her move back home to be with her family. And eventually she bumps into an old friend from her hometown and the 2 of them fall in love. And then we see that love story develop. And what I really liked is that their love story is very different. This is Emma discovering a new side of herself. This, by the way, is not spoilers. This is all in the back. So Emma and Sam get engaged, and then she gets a phone call that Jessie survived the helicopter crash and, super dramatic, has been living on this like remote island, has like just been, it's like survival, has been surviving there for the past 4 years and finally has been rescued, and he's coming back, and he this whole time has been fighting to come back to the woman that he loves. So this is a heartbreaking decision, because suddenly Emma finds she's madly in love with Sam. She has this new life with Sam. She's planning the future. They're about to get married. But her husband, who she loved so much and grieved so much when he died, is back. And it should be the happiest day of her life, but it's actually interrupting her future. So, again, will not tell you what happens, but Emma has massive decisions to make, and she explores both sides of herself and how each side of herself could exist with each man. And I really enjoyed this one. It genuinely made me like gutted. Like, what a horrible decision to have to make. And I felt so sad for Emma and also so sad for both of these men, because they're both lovely. That's what I really liked about this book, is it doesn't like fall back on making one of the men not that good in order for you to like the other one and them to win. They're both lovely, and the relationships that she had with each of them are very, very different, but each really valid and really wonderful. So it is this like massively hard decision, but I thought it was perfect what happened. And again, just like the other Blue Phase 2 book, it's all about the idea that there isn't just one true love, that there are different ways you can love different people, and it doesn't make either of them any less perfect. Okay, so that is the back catalogue before we get to the massive Taylor Jenkins Reid hype that has started now. That all began with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And weirdly, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was absolutely massive on BookTube in the States, but didn't really make it over to England. I was really surprised at this. Both of these, both this and Daisy Jones, Harriet Rosie said in a video the other day something that's so true, which is these books have just been like beloved by everyone, by all different types of reader. People who usually love YA are loving these books. People who usually read adult literary fiction are loving these books. If you usually love romances, if you usually love non-fiction, if you usually love thrillers, no matter what you usually read, people are loving these books. It has just somehow brought all the different types of readers together, which is just amazing. So we're firmly into Phase 3, and these are both historical fiction. Phase 3 includes the short story The Evidence of the Affair, which I'm also going to talk about in between these two, because that's when it came out. Spoiler alert, that one was not a 5-star read, but anyway, we'll get to that in a second. So The 7 Husbands, I feel like I don't even need to give synopsises of these ones because you've all probably read them. It's about a Hollywood movie star, Evelyn Hugo, who famously had 7 husbands, but her true love was a woman. So it has a bisexual main character, she's also biracial. The book is about feminism, it's about sexism in the media, it's about domestic violence, it's about different types of love, it's about friendship, it's about so many deep issues, while also being this lovely kind of page-turning beach read that's very easy to read, and you could absolutely read it out in the sun, but you also would be bawling your eyes out. Oh my goodness, so sad at the end of this book. It just keeps getting sadder and sadder. And also really a book that makes you think so much. We read this one, I've read this twice now, and we read it the second time as part of a book club, and there's just so much to talk about and so many questions to ask. It just gets so surprisingly deep, while also being this wonderful love story. Oh god, I love the characters in this book so much. It's rare for me to actually cry at a book, and this one did bring tears out of my eyes. And then before we get to Daisy Jones and the Six, there is a short story called The Evidence of the Affair. So this, I wasn't sure where to put it. I'm fitting it into Phase 3 because of the chronology and because it is also historical. It's set in the 70s. I only gave it a 3-star because I thought in that one, I mean, it is a short story, so to be fair to it, it doesn't have as much time to like flesh out all of the characters. It was a bit more simple in the emotions being explored. So it's all told through letters, these letters being written to each other by a man and a woman who are both being cheated on by their husband and wife with each other. Does that make sense? And I'm not going to tell you what happens there, really. You'll have your guesses. It did surprise me what happened. It wasn't what I had predicted. But the characters just were a bit more one-dimensional than Taylor Jenkins Reid, than I know she can do. So the husband was just too much of a bad guy. And the couple who were writing each other, who were the victims of this, were two kind of straightforwardly good characters. And all the kind of love and affection being expressed in it, I thought it was just kind of too much. It was too powerful when I wasn't ready for it to be powerful. Letter writing is an interesting format, but a difficult one because you're not really seeing inside the characters' heads properly or just being told everything, and there's kind of references to them meeting up, and that all happens like off screen, off the page. So yeah, didn't fall in love with the evidence of the affair, but it fits in the middle, and what's really fun about it is there's a little teaser in it where all of the other 70s references are accurate, but there is one little Easter egg in there where Carrie, the woman, writes about listening to Joni Mitchell and Carole King and Daisy Jones. The evidence of the affair, when it first came out, I don't know if anyone questioned who's Daisy Jones. Did people just read it and think like, oh, Daisy Jones must be someone I've never heard of before? It's a fun little Easter egg because Taylor Jenkins Reid knew Daisy Jones is the star of her next book. So that brings us to the final one. And this, I've been trying to choose a favourite between the two of these, and I just can't. I gave them both 5 stars. I think Daisy Jones might be my favourite because the format was so interesting, but then I reread Evelyn Hugo and like was destroyed all over again because this one's so emotional. So Daisy Jones, and this one is getting a TV show that Reese Witherspoon is making, and that is going to be fucking ace. I'm so excited. So this is all told, I've talked about this in so many videos, like you don't need me to say this again, but recap, it's all told as transcripts of interviews with all of the members of this band called The Six, who teamed up with this pop star Daisy Jones back in the 70s. And it's about what went wrong. We know that the band had this terrible breakup, and so we're seeing the build up to that and the relationship between Daisy Jones and Billy, the lead singer of The Six, which is this very intense relationship. And the format was great, I think, because you're hearing other people talk about their chemistry and just seeing quite how strong it was and how impossible to hide it was. It's just brilliant. Look at this lovely book. I'm ready to reread this one again already now. I only just read it a few months ago. So that is my ranking of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books so far. They really do just get better and better. And now I don't know what to predict. Because originally, when I was planning this video, I was thinking like, okay, I'll make predictions. And I thought, these two went so well together. These are the ones that have been like the big hitters that really like propelled her into like everyone's favourite author territory. So maybe there will be a third. So it's going to be like a trilogy of these historical books about famous people. But then when I divided it into my phases and realised that she's always written these books in pairs, maybe we're done with phase 3 and we're going to move into phase 4. And that's going to be like 6-star reads. I mean, how do you get any better than these? I'm genuinely so excited to see what Taylor Jenkins Reid writes next and how she can keep writing these amazing like genre-straddling books that attract readers from all over the spectrum of different types of readers, and that keep stretching the boundaries of what romance books can be and what beach reads can be and how you tell a story, you know, playing with these different formats. I'd love to know if other people have also gone back and read her whole back catalogue, or if there are any fans that were there right from the beginning. Which ones are your favourites? Do you have predictions of what she's going to write next? Do we think there's going to be phase 4? Are we moving into something new next? I don't know if I'm ready to let go of this era though, because I love this Taylor Jenkins Reid era that we're in right now of these famous people's stories. Who do we think will play Daisy Jones in the TV show? I'm so excited to actually be able to listen to the songs and see the album cover that's talked about and see this amazing chemistry between Daisy and Billy like be brought to life on screen. I think it's going to be brilliant. Honestly, I'm here wanting to chat to you guys about this, so leave me comments, let's talk. And of course, do give this video a thumbs up. I like those thumbs up. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because I post new videos here on Drinking by Myself twice a week. See you next time.